Our story begins during a dark period for the Israelites, who were oppressed by the Philistines. In the town of Zorah, there lived a man named Manoah from the tribe of Dan. Manoah's wife was barren and had no children. One day, the angel of the Lord appeared to her and said, "You are barren, but you will become pregnant and give birth to a son. Be sure not to drink wine or other fermented drinks, and do not eat anything unclean. You will have a son whose head is never to be touched by a razor, for he is to be a Nazirite dedicated to God from the womb. He will lead the Israelites in delivering them from the hands of the Philistines." Excited and amazed, the woman rushed to tell her husband about the angel's message. Manoah prayed to the Lord, asking him to send the angel again to teach them how to raise the child. God heard Manoah's prayer, and the angel returned. Manoah asked the angel, "When your words are fulfilled, what rules should govern the boy's life and work?" The angel reiterated the instructions. Manoah's wife must do everything as commanded. Soon after, Manoah's wife gave birth to a son, and they named him Samson. As Samson grew, the Lord blessed him, and the Spirit of the Lord began to stir him. While in Mahanadan, between Zorah and Eshtaol, Samson went down to Timnah, where he saw a Philistine woman. He returned home and told his parents, "I have seen a Philistine woman in Timnah. Get her for me as my wife." His parents were dismayed that he wanted to marry a Philistine, asking, "Isn't there an acceptable woman among your relatives or all our people? Must you go to the uncircumcised Philistines?" But Samson insisted, "Get her for me. She is the right one for me." His parents did not know that this was from the Lord, who was seeking an occasion to confront the Philistines. On his way to Timnah, Samson encountered a young lion. As he walked through the dense forest, a roar pierced the air, and the lion charged at him. The Spirit of the Lord came upon Samson, and with a surge of divine strength, he tore the lion apart with his bare hands. He told neither his father nor mother about it. Later, when Samson returned to Timnah, he found the lion's carcass and noticed a swarm of bees and honey inside. He ate some of the honey and shared it with his parents, but did not tell them where it came from. At the wedding feast, Samson posed a riddle to his 30 Philistine companions. "If you can answer my riddle within the 7 days of the feast, I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 sets of clothes. But if you cannot, you must give me 30 linen garments and 30 sets of clothes." The Philistines agreed to try and solve it. The riddle was, out of the eater, something to eat; out of the strong, something sweet. For 3 days, they could not solve the riddle. On the 4th day, they threatened Samson's wife, saying, "Coax your husband into explaining the riddle, or we will burn you and your father's house down." Desperate, Samson's wife cried to him, "You hate me. You don't really love me. You've given my people a riddle, but you haven't told me the answer." After 7 days of constant pressure, Samson finally told her the answer, and she shared it with the men. Before sunset on the 7th day, the men answered the riddle. "What is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than a lion?" Samson replied, "If you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have solved my riddle." In a fit of anger, he went to Ashkelon, struck down 30 men, and took their belongings to settle the bet. He returned home, and Samson's wife was given to one of his companions. Later, during the wheat harvest, Samson took a young goat and went to visit his wife, only to find that her father had given her to another man. In retaliation, Samson caught 300 foxes, tied them tail to tail in pairs, and attached a torch to each pair. He released them in the Philistines' fields, setting their crops ablaze. The Philistines were enraged and burned Samson's wife and her father's house. Samson vowed revenge and attacked the Philistines, killing many of them before retreating to a cave in the rock of Etam. The Philistines camped in Judah, and 3,000 men from Judah went to capture Samson. When they confronted him, Samson explained that he had only done to the Philistines what they had done to him. They agreed not to kill him, but tied him up and handed him over to the Philistines. As Samson approached Lehi, the Spirit of the Lord came upon him, and the ropes binding him were torn apart. He found a fresh jawbone of a donkey, used it to kill 1,000 Philistines, and threw the jawbone aside. Samson, feeling thirsty, cried out to the Lord, and God opened a hollow place in Lehi, where water flowed. Samson drank, regained his strength, and revived. The spring was named En-Hakkore, and it still exists in Lehi. Later, Samson visited Gaza, where he spent the night with a woman. The Philistines lay in wait for him, planning to kill him at dawn. But Samson got up in the middle of the night, uprooted the gates of the city, and carried them to the top of a hill. Some time after, Samson fell in love with a woman named Delilah in the valley of Sorek. The Philistine rulers approached her, offering a large sum of silver to help them find the secret of Samson's strength. Delilah repeatedly asked Samson for the secret, and after 3 failed attempts, he finally told her the truth. His strength would leave him if his hair were shaved, for he had been a Nazirite dedicated to God from birth. Delilah had Samson's hair shaved while he slept, and when the Philistines attacked him, he realized his strength was gone. They captured him, gouged out his eyes, and bound him with shackles, forcing him to grind grain in prison. But his hair began to grow back. The Philistine rulers gathered to offer a great sacrifice to their god, Dagon, celebrating their victory over Samson. When they brought Samson out to entertain them, he prayed to the Lord, asking for strength one more time. Samson pushed against the pillars supporting the temple, causing it to collapse, killing himself and thousands of Philistines. Samson's final act of strength brought victory to Israel.